The rain poured down in sheets as the old bus rumbled along the deserted country road. Mark and Sarah, a couple from the city, were heading to a remote cabin they had rented for a much-needed getaway. The GPS had taken them on a detour, and they found themselves lost in the middle of nowhere as night fell. "This doesn't look right," Sarah said, peering out the window at the dark, looming trees. Mark glanced at the GPS, which showed them surrounded by nothing but dense forest. "It says we're close. Just a bit further." The bus sputtered and came to a halt. "Not now," Mark groaned, trying the ignition again to no avail. "We're out of gas." They stepped out into the rain, their breaths visible in the cold night air. "There's a house up ahead," Sarah said, pointing to a faint light in the distance. "Maybe they can help." The two trudged through the mud, shivering as the rain soaked through their clothes. The house was old and dilapidated, with broken windows and an air of abandonment. But the light was on, flickering through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. Mark knocked on the door, the sound echoing ominously. No answer. He tried the handle, and the door creaked open. "Hello? Is anyone here?" They stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind them. The interior was dark and musty, filled with old, decaying furniture. An eerie silence hung in the air, broken only by the sound of dripping water. "We should leave," Sarah whispered, a sense of unease washing over her. Before Mark could respond, the lights flickered on, revealing a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a man, tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes and a sinister smile. "Welcome," he said, his voice a raspy whisper. "I've been expecting you." Mark and Sarah exchanged nervous glances. "Our bus broke down. We just need some help," Mark said, his voice shaking. The man's smile widened. "Of course. Come, sit by the fire and warm yourselves." Against their better judgment, they followed him into a dimly lit living room. A fire crackled in the fireplace, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The man gestured for them to sit. "I'm Mr. Thorne," he said, sitting opposite them. "You must be hungry." As if on cue, a creaky door opened, and an elderly woman emerged, carrying a tray of food. Her eyes were blank, her movements mechanical. She set the tray down and shuffled back into the shadows without a word. Sarah shuddered. "We really should get going. We just need some gas for our bus." Mr. Thorne's eyes glinted in the firelight. "All in good time. First, you must eat." Reluctantly, they took a few bites, the food tasting strange and metallic. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and the fire dimmed. The shadows on the walls seemed to grow, writhing and stretching toward them. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. "We need to leave. Now." Mr. Thorne's smile vanished. "I'm afraid that's not possible." The door slammed shut, and the shadows closed in, forming grotesque shapes that reached out with skeletal hands. The air grew thick with the stench of decay, and whispers filled the room, incomprehensible and maddening. Sarah screamed as the shadows grabbed her, their touch icy and painful. Mark tried to pull her free, but the shadows wrapped around him too, dragging them both toward the darkness. "Please. Let us go." Mark shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the growing darkness. Mr. Thorne stood, his form shifting and twisting into something monstrous. His eyes glowed with a malevolent light. "You are not the first, and you will not be the last." The shadows pulled them into the abyss, their screams echoing through the house. The fire went out, plunging the room into pitch-black darkness. When the sun rose, the house was silent once more, its windows dark and lifeless. The bus was gone, and there was no sign of Mark or Sarah. Locals avoided the house, whispering of the disappearances that plagued the area. Those who ventured too close claimed to hear faint screams and see shadowy figures moving behind the windows. And at night, if you listen closely, you might hear Mr. Thorne's chilling whisper, "Welcome. I've been expecting you."